This movie is one of those that made us realize, cemented our realization that women do it better.
Yes. We get into some heavy topical conversation about this movie.
Yeah.
And with the realization of what I've said before, and I know people cringed at it, but this is a reinforcement to me. Women write and make these kinds of films better than any man ever has or will.
Yeah. And you might not be able to hear it because I think I did a fairly good job of hiding it, but I was crying on and off throughout the whole recording. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that actually reflects really well on this film and the discussion that we had.
Yeah. This is there's no way to put it other than this is a beautiful masterpiece. And as we talk about it, if you haven't seen it, then just listen. But you need to see this. You need to see it before or after you listen to the episode.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You need to see it.
Please watch it.
For the cinematic, storytelling, technical, emotional, and just talent, beauty behind this thing.
Yeah.
This is grossly underappreciated by the fact that almost nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
Let's change that. Listen, take action, see this, share it.
Yes.
Because you are in for a fucking ride. A wonderful ride.
A sad and wonderful ride.
Yeah. With a few chuckles.
It was some laughs.
A little bit. Anyway, I don't know. Is there anything more? Or should we just let them dive in?
Let's just go for it. Let's do it.
All right. We're off. Hey, B-Siders. Welcome to another episode of Bravo for the B-Side. This is Jim.
And this is Danny.
Try as you might, it's not going to work.
I will make you laugh. This is my goal.
Well, you made me laugh before we started.
That's true, I did.
Because you yawned. Are we ready? Yeah. 3. That's what happened. You're not laughing. You're ridiculous.
Oh, no. A fake yawn turned into a real yawn. Don't worry. We got this under control, guys.
Sure. So, anyway, this is another episode of Bravo for the B-Side.
It sure is. Goal accomplished.
This is terrible. Worst opening ever.
This is some good radio.
Did I say my name? No, yeah. This is Jim.
This is Danny. We said that.
Did we?
I'm pretty sure.
I don't know. You have me all messed up.
Good.
Well, anyway.
Keep you on your toes.
We're never going to get through this movie.
We had a birthday party for Lily this week.
We did. Finally.
I know. And now all of our stuff smells like campfire.
Well, no, the car is kind of aired out.
Yeah.
Mostly. We washed most of the stuff, but the stuff in storage is still, yeah. But yeah, that odyssey came to an end, finally. And the weather held up. I mean, it was a little chilly, but we had a big fire.
It was nice.
Yes. We didn't have to run out and get a tent to shield us from the rain, which is excellent. Most excellent.
It was pretty imminent all week.
Well, yeah, like the morning of rain, no rain, rain, no rain, rain, no rain. Like every 15 minutes, it couldn't make up its mind. So we just had to go with it.
This is true.
Yeah. But she had fun.
She did.
And we got to do a little metal detecting.
A little bit.
For about a half an hour.
I found some pennies.
I found 2 pennies.
Oh, I beat you. I found 3. Yeah. Suck it.
I got, I think, more pull tabs.
Probably.
And a foil wrapper of something. Sort of condiment, I think.
I got a beat up old tin can.
Yeah, you did. You got can slaw.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
A really old one, like a food can, not a soda can. It had the ribs.
Right.
It was rusty.
Yeah, that's a little different.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a campsite. So, anyway.
It tracks.
Yeah. So that was, I think, the big thing this weekend.
Big news, yeah.
And then we're recording a day late again because Sunday was a not doing anything day.
And I ate too many hot dogs.
And you ate too many hot dogs. You poor thing.
It made me sickly.
Got to watch out for those dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just so excited.
One thing I do want to bring up before we get into this movie.
Tell me about it.
Is another movie.
Oh, no.
So bad.
Oh, no.
Yes.
No.
Yep.
Don't do this to me, Jim.
Frozen Sasquatch.
Don't do this to me, Jim.
We're already in it. They're expecting it. So, as a background, we put on, it was a chill movie. Just kind of a, okay, let's be real, folks. Sometimes movies are just plain bad. This wasn't even like an earnest effort. So, Frozen Sasquatch, you think it's a Sasquatch that's frozen, right? Isn't that what we thought?
Or a Sasquatch in the cold.
Right. But no, it's a Yeti.
But not really.
Not really. They call it a Yeti, but it's a bad gorilla suit.
Yes.
And it's the intro thing said that they do like experiments on it and it gets like massive. So I was expecting like, Godzilla size type stuff.
No, it was just person sized.
It was a short person too at that. So anyway, all right. It's not frozen and it's a Yeti. It was shot like in the middle of the woods in fucking July in Alabama.
And then they I don't know if it was Alabama, but.
Well, that's what just reminded me of. Yeah, it could have been the Carolina, but it was a southern state.
Superimposed the cheapest snow effect over it with no actual snow on the ground.
Yeah, it was just like that. Didn't even look like snow. It was just white dots kind of blowing around. And we were supposed to believe the whole time that they were, where the fuck were they supposed to be? The north? No, the Himalayas. Top of the Himalayas. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Then there was this one part where one of the characters fell off a cliff or was dangling on the edge of a cliff.
Oh, yeah.
When it was clearly just a slight incline.
It was a little gully.
Yeah.
And they had to like scoot down.
Yes.
In the shot, they had to scoot down.
To make it look like they were holding on for dear life.
So, okay, here's my thing with this, right? We've talked about earnest efforts. We've talked about
ditch.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was just a little thing. But you can only push suspension of disbelief and expect the audience to only go so far along with you. But if you're going to shoot something in the top of the Himalayas, I mean, ice, snow, blizzard, okay. Doing it in the middle of a fucking forest at the height of summer isn't going to do it.
No.
We were just like, are you shitting me? What's happening?
And the research facility from the outside was clearly a small utility shed. And then on the inside, it was clearly a public school of some sort.
Yeah, on the outside, I think it was a water tower thing. They usually have like the tower, they'll have the building and then the big round thing.
Yeah.
To, catalyze the pressure or whatever. But yeah. And then you go inside and it's clearly a school. Fine. Fine. Okay, but no effort was made. Oh, no, they did make effort. They put corkboard on the lockers.
They did, yeah. They put corkboard on the lockers.
Right. So, a couple things here. Other than what I've just mentioned. Number one, have a story that makes sense, that tracks, right? Beginning, middle, end. I feel like they lost their way on this a little bit. The end was ridiculous.
Yes, it was really dumb.
And at one point, several points, we had no idea where we were. Are we in the past, in the present? Are we in the future?
Yeah, the timeline was very confusing.
Right. Are we with the same people? Like these three dudes show up, right? Wrapped in blankets and wearing like ninja masks or whatever. And only to come out 3/4 of the way through the movie to find out they were supposed to be Sherpas.
Well, it was almost 9/10 of the way through the movie.
Okay,
It was the
yeah.
very end when we were
Well-
like, oh, they're supposed to be Sherpas. Okay.
That's true. Okay.
Nothing else, nothing indicated that. And there was no, but anyway.
Anyway, so folks, if you want a absolutely do not do this, there's your example for the week.
Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said for writing around your resources, right? Which they
Well,
clearly did not.
If you don't, well, first of all, if you can't shoot it in the winter, right? And I get it. Winter shots are a bitch. Just as a photographer, I hated doing stuff in the winter because you can't, you got your gear, you know, it's cold. It's miserable, right?
Yeah.
But then fucking do it inside and green screen the whole thing. This movie would have been way more palatable if they'd have just put up a green screen in the basement and just shot the whole thing against that
Sure.
for the outside stuff. And just, I would have been like, earnest effort. This was just like, no, as an audience member, you're asking too much of me. And there were so many other aspects of this that were not good. But anyway, I had to get that out of my system because I feel like we shouldn't be carrying that burden alone.
You've put it out there now.
I have. Hey, this might become like the next thing.
You can't undo it. All right.
So we have a good movie to talk about, though.
We do.
And it was a really good one. Another one on the list. We're just going through the list backwards as I added them to our queue. Instead of hunting and picking, we just thought, well, we're going to get to all of them. So we'll just go through.
Yes.
And I was, excited to get to this one.
I was excited to get to this one because, I mean, it's no spoiler. It features heavily Karen Gillan, Scottish actress, Doctor Who.
Amy Pond.
Yeah. Nebula in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
Who's just fantastic. Love her. Love everything I've seen her in so far.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're halfway there. Why don't you just bring the rest of it in?
Sure.
Cool.
So this movie's called The Party's Just Beginning. It was made in 2018, written, directed, and starring Karen Gillan. Also starring Lee Pace and Matthew Beard. It was not rated, but I think just for subject matter, probably would have been R.
I would go an easy R. Just for the subject matter, bit of language, and a lot of physical stuff.
Yeah.
That's implied. Well, I mean, I guess it's not really implied. So it's not terribly implied.
No, it's pretty upfront.
Yeah, I'd put it at an R.
Here's the log line.
Mm-hmm.
When her best friend takes his own life, Lucy has to deal with stresses of such a situation. Not the best written log line, but it's good film. So.
I mean, yeah. And the gist is there.
Yeah.
And it will become clear.
Yeah.
All right. Should I talk about this thing?
Yeah. Why don't you start us out?
All right. So we start out, we're in a pub, and there's this woman riffing into a microphone. And I didn't write down what she was riffing, but it was kind of hilarious and kind of angry.
She's doing a drunken, depressing speech, and people are hating it.
Yeah, I put not well received by the patrons. So she steps down and just kind of like dances her way out of the pub, which I thought was kind of cool. But outside, she's angrily walking, like, honk, 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 honk.
Yeah.
And she runs into a dude and glares at him. And then the next thing we see, they're fucking in an alleyway. So there you go. So then she gets chips, French fries, wolfs them down while walking. And she walks quite a distance by the look of it.
Yeah, this is a long walk.
Yeah. She comes to a bridge in a park, and some dude is standing on the wall. What do you call that?
The edge? I don't know. I just wrote edge.
Well, a bridge with walls. Anyway, so he's standing on that. And then we hear a train coming from below, and then he falls. And then we quickly see that this was in her mind. And she's just standing there looking pissed. And then she walks across the bridge. And this woman, her name is Lucy. And I love that they used the Gale spelling of it. I know that bothered you.
Well, it wouldn't have so much if like anyone had said her name in such a way that I could understand how to pronounce it.
I know. And this is, quick aside. We just had this conversation with Lily about languages, and the Gaelic language with their Scotch, Irish, Manx, all the Gaelic. The written version is so terrible because the rules are not fully consistent throughout the scope. And English language is hard.
Well, any Gaelic, writing, you look at the way it's written and you pronounce it the way that it's written, and you're wrong.
Right. But anyway, I liked it. Anyway, so Lucy works in a grocery store at the deli counter. As we see her at work the next day, she's looking a little rough.
Yeah, she's just kind of like dead eye stare.
Yeah, well, like the job sucks, but it also looks like a little bit of the previous night kind of got over on her.
Maybe.
So then later she's talking with a woman, and I love this. So they're both sitting in a living room in a house, right? And they're sitting by the window, leaning out the window, smoking.
Yes.
This is so Scotland, Ireland, a lot of England. This is a very common, and it has been for the longest time.
Well, there aren't a lot of like patios you can go out and smoke on, right?
Right. And people who smoke don't always like smoking a lot of them don't like smoking in the house for obvious reasons.
Well, yeah.
So yeah, they'll do the window thing. And it's just, I loved it. That was wonderfully shot. Anyway, she still looks like hell. Lucy does. And like, they're talking and this kid comes in the room. And the other woman just starts yelling at them. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I love that.
You're not supposed to be in here. Go play or something.
So then it's nighttime. And as Lucy is walking, she passes a man standing in his yard wearing a bra and panties, talking about the Aurora Borealis coming.
Oh, I didn't write that bit down.
That's his only part in this. Right there. That's it. So next we're at home, and she's in her room and she's looking at people across the street in their home through their windows. Right. Then she has this weird argument with her mother over the house phone.
Right.
And I love that they did that. And I wonder how many people even figured out how that works. Right. So, well, I mean, clearly not a lot of people grew up with landlines.
Yeah. And a lot of people have house phones anymore.
And
if you do you have more than one phone in the house even? Right.
Now, in that part, in England, Scotland, and Ireland, there's a lot of house phones still. There's plenty of landlines, right? Where here in the US, pretty much anyone under the age of 30 that's living in a place does not have a landline.
Right.
Those have been abandoned. So real quick, if you have a landline and you have more than one extension, meaning you got a phone in the kitchen, living room, and one upstairs, right? Pick up the phone, dial your own number, and then hang up when you hear bang, 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 and then the phone will ring.
Yeah.
And you wait for somebody to pick it up, and then you pick up your end, bam, intercom. And that's what her mom did to her.
Yes.
So they're arguing over, it's weird as shit, and they're arguing over the phone.
About medication, like a doctor.
Not taking pills, not having a boyfriend. The whole thing just didn't go well.
So later we see her decluttering a piano.
Yes.
And she starts playing. It's clear like it hasn't been played in a while, right?
Right.
So she has to take a bunch of crap off of it to start playing. And then when she hears someone talking, she stops and like puts all the stuff back on it. And then we see her watching the family across the street again. And she sees the older man, I think is like the dad, hanging by a noose.
Yeah, in the upstairs bedroom.
And she's shocked. She goes downstairs and grabs a plate of food, and her parents are down there, each doing kind of their own thing. So yeah, she just grabs a plate of food and sits down at the table and doesn't eat it. She just sits there staring at it. And then you can kind of hear a scream in the distance.
Right.
So then we're back at a bar. She's picking up another stranger and going to a hotel with him. And it's funny because he watches her for a little bit and then calls her a mess.
Yeah.
And then as they're kind of fooling around, she sees Bridge Boy, the guy who she saw on the bridge, kind of like haunting her from the corner of the room.
Right.
And this is Alistair. In her speech at the beginning, at the end of her speech, she said, "Fuck you, Alistair, for leaving me."
Right.
And so I've kind of put 2 and 2 together here.
Right. At first it was like an angry breakup song kind of thing. Right. But then, I mean, if you went into this not reading about her best friend killing herself,
right,
which I always try to put that all aside.
Yeah.
Right. Go with the impressions that we get. But yeah, this kind of sealed it too. It's like, yeah.
So then we're back to the bridge and he's there standing on the ledge again. And then he's gone. And she sits on the railing there and like starts dropping her chips off the side and then just dumps the whole thing over.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're in a flashback, it seems. Because it's Alistair and her, Lucy, and this blonde girl.
The one she was smoking with out the window. Yeah.
Donna are hanging out. And they're like smoking weed. She and Alistair take some pills and Donna leaves because Donna's not into the drugs.
Right.
And then they're just kind of talking about like friend stuff. A guy that he likes, the fact that he doesn't have a CD player, sex, just kind of like, you know, general.
It's a wonderful little montage that does that. It's like any age.
Yeah.
Like 14 and above, all the way up until like mid 20s.
Yeah.
That very young, these are the things you talk about.
Right.
Kind of things. It was really well done.
Yeah. They put on like a little disco ball and watch TV in like a drug haze. Just kind of dance around, having fun, chatting. At the end, they're crashing hard, kind of leaning on each other. Mm-hmm. And she peeks out the window and it's too bright. And she's like, let's never go out there ever. Let's just stay in here.
Yeah.
And then she's in her bed again. And we get these shots of her just laying in her bed, like she doesn't sleep. Right?
Right. That's part of the haggard look.
And the phone goes off and she picks it up. And this is the second time someone has called the phone in her house asking for like a helpline.
Yeah, she says this is not the helpline.
Right. Apparently her phone number is 1 digit off of the helpline.
Yes.
And this guy thinks that she's laughing at him. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He thinks that she's making fun of him. And he's like, it took me a lot of courage to, you know, even call this number. And she isn't. And he essentially says that he wants to go to sleep and never wake up. And she's like, yeah, me too. And he's like, oh, well, didn't expect to hear that.
Right. Well, yeah, because he thinks so the helpline is the suicide prevention line.
Yeah.
But they don't call it that because it's for all mental health.
Right.
Right. As you can call suicide prevention line for anything, really.
Yeah.
I mean, they're there to help you through that moment. But yeah, that's what he calls it. I can imagine you call for help and someone has suicide prevention and your support person goes, yeah, me too. Oh, fuck. Oh, man. So then we're back at the deli and the guy she slept with last comes strolling in. And she's surprised that he found her. He says it wasn't hard. There are only a couple of supermarkets in town. And they did pass on that. She did pass on. That's where she works at a deli.
Yeah.
Right. So it's in the evening. they're drinking at some ruins, and his phone rings, and then he's talking to what sounds like his daughter.
Yeah.
Because he like jumps down, steps away, and starts talking. When he's done, he does say, "My daughter." So Lucy asks how old she is. She's 8. And then she's there at his place. But then I wrote his place, but then quickly, it's a hotel room.
Yeah.
So he's playing a game on his laptop. And then there's a noise. No. Let me back up. Says she's 8. Then she's back at Alistair's place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll get to the hotel. And he's playing a game on his laptop, and there's a noise. And he gets up to help some dude who's shooting up in his kitchen.
Yeah, it's his dad.
And it's very strange. Yeah. Yeah. So then we come back to the present, and then she's with the guy that she last slept with. They're drunk and playing on a playground. Then they're in bed sleeping, and Lucy wakes up, which, I mean, we didn't see her head behind his, like whether her eyes were open or not. But when she lifts her head up, they're open. So I just assumed she was catching maybe a poor to little sleep, But anyway, she's up.
Yeah.
And then Alistair is with his boyfriend making out on the playground. And Lucy is sitting nearby. So flashback. And then boom, back to the present. She's still in bed. Then she's walking to the woods. And it's this place where there's a ton of like scarves and shirts,
different pieces of clothing
tied to trees. And she's got something, I think it was maybe a scarf.
I think so.
And she was tying it onto a tree with all the rest of this stuff. And like dozens of trees. There's
it's very strange
100, 200
area.
things that have been tied. Let's see. I lost my place. Then she's at home and she's on the phone with the helpline dude that mistakenly called the other night. We find out his kids want to put him in a home because he's a nuisance to them.
Yeah.
A burden to them.
It seems like they've been talking regularly.
Yeah, this is like coming in on an ongoing, like they're doing conversation in parts, and we just coming in on this part.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seemed very comfortable, very open.
Yeah.
Between them. Lucy tells him he's not a burden to her, and then she opens up to him a bit. We get a flashback of her going to Alistair's place. She runs into his partner and kind of gets on him about things like, when are you going to tell the church?
Right.
That he's gay. And it was kind of very strange because
and that you're gay, right? Like the partner.
Yeah, that's what she's saying is when she's confronted him.
Right.
Yeah. And it was just strange in the fact that there was no context leading up to it. It's just her like fractured memories from like that moment. Oh, what are you going to do? Clearly this has been a conversation before.
Well, it was mentioned in their flashback.
In their flashback when they were doing the friend talking, the montage. Anyway, Alistair is gone when she gets in there. He had to take his dad to the emergency room. So she gets into his bed and then hears some crying. Or no, he's not gone. He's in the other room.
Yeah, she falls asleep in Alistair's bed.
Yeah. And then she's woken up by the crying, and the dad had just passed away, and then the partner tells her she should leave. Right. So she's back at the hotel guy's place, and he's packing to go home. And she asks him what his name is, and he won't answer.
Right.
Right. And then he throws it back on her. What's your name? She just shoves it off. Right.
Yeah.
And then we have Alistair staring at her from a bench.
Yeah, he's haunting her.
Yeah. Or at least she's seeing
Yeah.
this, right? I got a lot to talk about that at the end. So then there's another walk by her. A dude with bra and panties is outside, still going on about the Aurora Borealis. I don't know. It's a thing. It's his deal. Whatever. She goes up to her room. She's looking across the street. And the one home where the guy hung himself is really sullen, where before,
Yeah.
the first time it was all happy, happy, happy. The second time, the downstairs was all happy, 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 and dad or whoever was upstairs hanging. Now it's just like lifeless.
Yeah.
Very gray feeling, because obviously,
Well, yeah.
you know,
It's a horrible, horrible thing.
somebody just passed away in a terrible, terrible way, a highly preventable way. Right. So not just the loss, but what could we have done? What should we have known? Blah, 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 blah. There's just a whole bunch weighing on them. And what little scene that we got, I think really portrayed not just the regular grieving, but all these compounded layers on these people,
It's a different kind of grief.
Yeah. Yeah. So she closes her curtains and then goes with her mom to some local party.
Yeah, it is her dad's work party, and they've like forced her to go.
Mm-hmm.
So she then finds a guy in the bathroom, and it's like her boss from the supermarket.
Mm-hmm.
And she just fucks him in the bathroom.
Yep.
And it seems like this isn't providing the same numbing as it previously did. Like in the middle of it, I mean, she's done this before, right?
Right.
But in the middle of it, you kind of see this, like, just this weird awareness in her eyes, like, oh, this isn't doing it.
Yeah.
I'm done now.
Yeah. Something is different. You don't know really what it is.
Yeah.
But visually, it's very obvious.
Right.
Yeah.
So she's walking to the bridge again, and when she gets there, she sees the hotel guy sitting on the ledge.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, what are you doing here? So she goes up and she starts talking to him, and he says that he read about the bridge on the internet. It's a place that people go to kill themselves.
Mm-hmm.
If the fall doesn't do it, the train will finish you off.
Right.
And so she takes his hand, and he's like crying. And as we can hear the train coming, she just like shakes her head.
Mm-hmm.
So then we're flashing back to Alistair's place. And she and Alistair are fantasizing about moving to California. And she's like kind of talking through this as she walks in. And as she gets to his room, she's caught him cross-dressing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very quiet for a moment before she sits down and asks about it. Like, what's going on?
She's clearly stunned, surprised by this.
Yeah. But she doesn't freak out. She just sits down, right? And
Right.
she's like, so what's this?
Yeah.
What's happening here? And he starts talking to her. He's going to start taking hormones. He's discussed it with the doctor, who said he has to live as a woman for a year before operation.
Mm-hmm.
And his boyfriend doesn't know because they haven't been talking recently. But the church does know about him, Alistair. And she asks if he's changing his gender to be with this guy.
Right. Or for him.
Right.
Yeah. And I like this scene. I like that she was shocked, because I like that he was doing something. Not everything we do in our lives is shared even with those closest to us.
Yeah.
Right. And that was her shock, is like, how did I not know this was happening?
Right.
Is this just a today thing? And then when he talks about the doctor, she's like, oh, you can see it on her face, like,
yeah.
but she doesn't get pissed.
Well, no.
I thought that was beautifully written and acted,
Well, it really is. I mean, if you think about your relationships you have as a young person, your best friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do everything together.
Yeah.
Right? Even if your relationship isn't, romantic.
Right. I mean, that's friendship.
You do. Yeah. I mean, I had a best friend in my early 20s, right? Late teens, early 20s. And we were inseparable. We were attached at the hip. We did everything together.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if I had walked in on him, like doing cross-dressing, not that there's anything wrong with that. Right.
Right.
But I would be like, oh, huh.
Well, that's just it. It's the surprise of not knowing about this going on.
Right. This is someone you know.
Yeah. It's
right?
not the thing itself.
Right.
That is upsetting or shocking or whatever. It's just, and I love that. She's, what's all this?
Right.
It's when she kind of, okay, let's get to the bottom of this situation here.
Yeah.
And and it was very much as friends do that.
Yeah.
Not accusatory, not, negative in any way. Just, so what's this then?
Right. And then he asks her for help. And she's like, oh, thank God, because your makeup is terrible.
Oh, God. She's like, yeah, this.
So she helps him fix his awful makeup. And then they're walking together, and he is walking as a woman.
Yes. Wig.
Mm-hmm.
Nice makeup. She did a really wonderful job.
She did.
Because, he was.
It was he'd never done makeup before.
Right. He was clearly out of his depth.
Yeah.
But he got a wonderful primer.
Makeup is a complex thing.
It is. And it was good. And nails and everything. Women's clothing.
Yeah.
And looked good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as they're walking, someone just walks up and punches him in the face. And then Lucy chases after them as they run off, like she's chasing after them, and then realizes like, oh, I need to help Alistair.
Right.
Lets them go to turn around and help them. And we see them go to the bridge together, and she's hugging him while he's crying.
Yeah. That was out of fucking nowhere. Because we saw these two guys, they're in an apartment complex.
Right.
Right. And it's a typical lower end neighborhood apartment where it's like a motel with the doors facing out.
Yeah.
So they're walking on the balcony or the walkway. And it was a long shot. These fucking guys were coming forever. It's not like they were like waiting and got him. Just right when they walked up to him, the one guy on the right, pop. And then they just fucking took off.
Yeah, it's messed up.
Oh, man.
In the present.
Yeah. Back to that.
We're with Hotel Guy, and he's telling her about his ex-wife. And, they're at the bridge still. And how he isn't able to provide for his kid. And, what kind of man is he? So he's struggling with his own kind of thing. And she is very clear, Lucy, that she does not want to stay at the bridge. And she takes him to that place in the forest with all the clothes hanging off of everything. Mm-hmm. And it's supposed to be a healing place, I guess.
Right. She says it's, doing this is supposed to heal you.
The wrong number guy told her about this place.
Yes.
So she takes his sweater and dips it in the creek and then ties it around a tree. And then they're sitting outside a building, and he plays music on his phone, and he wants to dance with her. And as they're dancing, she tells him that he can't go because it's not fair. And that's about as much as she's able to get out about it, articulate about her feelings about this situation.
Right. Doesn't she say something about it's not fair to the people you'll leave behind?
I don't think so.
I thought she said something because I remember thinking, wow, that was super quick catharticism. That's, like you said, that's as close as she could get.
Yeah. And then they're at the train station, and she tells him her name. And we learn that his name is Dale.
Yeah.
And we also see, she sees Alistair again. Right. Mm-hmm. And I call it haunting her. And I know it's just her Right. Her own psyche kind of projecting him.
Well, haunting is a good word for it still. It's not his spirit.
Well, she is haunted by him.
Yeah. The memory of him and her own, how she's dealing with things is haunting her.
Yeah.
You know, her own subconscious is speaking to her and she doesn't like it.
Yeah. And then we hear her, she's having another conversation with the wrong number guy.
Yeah, that was a voiceover because she's going back to the bridge.
Yeah.
After seeing Alistair, and then we hear that conversation. And as she gets there, a train has passed under her just as she got there. And I was wondering, is that the one Dale was on? Because that's what they just did, is put him on a train.
Right.
You know, that's where they said their final goodbye. So then she's back home, and then at the deli. And it's funny, she's in the bathroom trying to put a smile on her face.
Yeah.
Trying to
She's
be...
trying to practice smiling.
Yeah, the ultimate customer service. And, you know, and then she's at the counter. And then her boss, the guy she fucked in the bathroom the other night, comes up and pulls her aside. They're chatting because he's firing her.
Yeah.
She's missed 5 days of work. You know, and this was just like the creepiest part. She starts to get like all up on him. Like she's going to like put him up against the wall and ride him right there to save her job. And he just pushes her off. And I thought, oh, goddamn woman, you have reached the bottom.
Yeah.
We may not have seen it yet in the story, but you're there. Cause that is nasty. You know, that is not how it goes. Then she asks him, why is it he's so happy all the time? And he says he has a good life. And she just starts trying to piss on it. You work at your parents' grocery store, da-da-da-da-da. And, you know, then she storms off.
Yeah.
And then we're back with Donna. They have a pretty unfriendly talk.
Yeah.
Donna gives her some realism.
Well, yeah, because it starts with her kind of shitting on Donna's life a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Donna's like, well, hold the fuck up.
Wait a minute.
Have you looked in the mirror lately?
Oh, yeah, she gives it to her.
Yeah.
Donna gives it to her. Yeah, where Lucy tried to skim it and just sort of like do some abrasions. Donna did some full open chest wounds on her.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that, instead of storming off and shit, Lucy just says it's coming up on a year since Alistair killed himself.
Right.
You know, and it was just sort of like wildly weird.
Well, here's the even wilder thing. Donna, in response to that, starts talking about nail shellac.
Yes.
Doesn't even acknowledge it.
Right. And in and of itself, it's a weird, the whole flow of this thing is weird. But I got it.
Yeah.
Right. So first of all, besties. Right.
Yeah.
The three of them were best friends. I mean, she was obviously like, her and Alistair were, you know, Tweedledee and Tweedledum through thick and thin. Donna was close to that, you know, when it was the three of them.
Mm-hmm.
But she wasn't always a part of what the other two were doing. But they're still best friends. And that's how you have those conversations. You can just fucking eviscerate someone and then you just like, someone will change topic and you just move on.
Yeah.
Right. But this clearly showed, because they were all three friends, Donna is in a way different place than Lucy is.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, Then, she's at the place that she was sitting with Dale, and then dancing. And then she walks to Alistair's apartment and stares at it.
Yeah. Right.
This is the present. She doesn't go in. She just goes back to it and just like glares at it. Then she's at home. Her mom asks if she fancies some kind of shopping. They need some quality time. she's very hateful. She's actually kind of like our 13-year-old daughter.
Yes.
Oh God, fine.
Well,
You know? Just for different reasons, but the attitude is the same.
yeah. Her mom's like, I need you to come with me so I can use your name to put it on credit.
Well, that's when she's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or no. Yeah. While they're on the couch.
Yeah.
And then she gets, yeah. So mom, tells her she needs to take a couch on credit for her because mom's name is blacklisted for store credit. She has too much credit debt. So they do find a couch.
Right.
Later at home, Lucy's in her bedroom. The doorbell rings, and it's a couple of church solicitors, and one of them, little motherfuckers, is Alistair's ex-partner, Ben.
Oh.
And then we're back to Alistair's place. Flashback. She's listening in on Alistair and his partner talking. Alistair is begging his partner not to go back to the church. And his partner says, look at you. I don't even know what you are anymore. You're a freak. Then he says he's being manipulated into committing sin. I have so much to say about that statement and how often it's actually used in the real world. But I will refrain because we're talking about a movie.
Yes.
And then we're back to the present, and she's glaring at him as the other dude kind of rambles on. And then they leave. Because she just like stands there silently. And you can see the rage and the sorrow and everything in her, and just disbelief and disgust. And she just does it all with a look. And then they leave. And I just wrote, I'd have floored that piece of shit the second I opened the door. Ugh. And I would have been curb stomping him while his friend looked on. I mean, the conversation that took place between him and Alistair was so horrifically real. It is truly the most upsetting part of this movie to me. That conversation, the things that were said, the things that Alistair said in response were equally disgusting. Not that he was being vicious and mean, but the begging. Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. And it really was something. Anyway. We get back to the breakup after that. Lucy tells Alistair that he has her. He's not alone. He goes and grabs a small baggie of drugs out of the oven or a box. Dryer. And then Lucy leaves.
Well, that was his dad's
stash
spot.
Yeah.
So at home, her mom is having a Tupperware party. Fun fact. The original title of this movie was going to be Tupperware Party, but they couldn't use it because it's a trademarked name.
Right.
The new couch is in place where the piano was. They got rid of the piano.
Yeah.
Which Lucy was pretty bummed about. So Lucy just kind of leaves the Tupperware party and goes out partying again. And flash forward kind of to like 3 guys carrying her out of a bar.
Right.
And they take her somewhere where there's literally just a fucking mattress on the floor and start talking about how wasted she is.
Mm-hmm.
And at least one of them is married. They make sure to show
the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And essentially this is like she's willingly letting these guys just take advantage of her.
Well, it's a weird situation because through the whole thing, this isn't a date rape thing.
She went out purposely.
She is completely like, sure, let's go. But she's just drinking as much as she can.
Yeah.
And letting them do their thing. We don't see a lot of the thing. We just see them like getting.
Well, yeah, while they're like on her and she's out of it, and we can see that she's like in and out, right?
Right. At that point, because man, that was impressive power drinking in like that 2 minutes.
Put a lot of it away.
Yeah.
She does see Alistair in the corner. And then we see her and she looks just real bad, like the worst that she has looked in the movie.
Yeah.
And then we hear her talking to the wrong number guy. He's doing a little better. He followed some of her advice and is doing better with his family now.
Mm-hmm.
And she starts talking to that guy about Alistair and about what she did with the 3 guys.
Mm-hmm.
And asks him, because his wife died, she gets his whole life story.
Yeah.
And she kind of asked him if it was worth it, like all the time that he spent with his wife and then having to live without her. Because this guy's very, he's still in love with his dead wife. He sets a place at the table for her. And
yeah, he said, yeah. If he didn't, he tells her if he didn't do that, it would be like she didn't exist at all.
Yeah. And then he kind of starts thinking that she's his wife.
That was a sudden and weird turn. Because, yeah, at one moment, after she tells him about the 3 guys, he's like, oh, no. And she's like, no, I'd let him fuck me.
Right.
I just passed out halfway through because I drank too much. But then there's like a couple of exchanges and he said, well, I guess then it's time to wake up now.
Right.
To her. And then sets place for his wife and this and this. And then all of a sudden, yeah.
Well, yeah, he starts talking to her as if she's his wife, tells her that he's very tired now. He's going to go to sleep and hangs up.
Yeah. Which is a metaphor because that's what he said in the beginning.
Right.
I just want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Right. Won't say the words. Won't say what he wants to do, but we got it. It was inferred.
Yeah. But I think this time, rather than the first time he said it, like this time he's in a much better place. And I think it's not like he wants to go to sleep and never wake up. I think he's like resolved his things.
Possibly. I could argue both sides. I kind of was like waffling with that. But her face, though.
Yeah.
Wasn't a positive reaction. So that's what she heard. Right?
She starts crying. And then we see that her dad was listening to the conversation on the phone downstairs.
The other problem with landlines in the house, anyone who picks up the phone can listen in.
And as he goes upstairs and she's coming downstairs, he very nearly starts talking to her for the first time in the film, but doesn't actually.
Nope.
And then we have this flashback where she's found a note in Alistair's place, his apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And she starts running to the bridge. And she gets there and he steps off.
So this is the real deal that we're seeing.
And then she's standing on the edge and she can see him down on the tracks and he's trying to crawl. It looks like he's trying to crawl out of the train tracks. But the train comes.
Yeah, well, he gets his head over the rail because he hit right in the middle.
Yeah.
And then pulls himself and gets his head right over and then.
And then we see them both sharing a cigarette on the bridge. And then it's her alone again. And she says, fuck you for doing that to me. She's been standing on the edge.
Mm-hmm.
She steps down. And then she's outside her house kind of looking in at her parents who are both talking on the couch. And what's like the first time they're actually talking to each other throughout this whole movie.
Right. Yeah. Because mom's over here, dad's over here. One's watching TV, one's fiddling.
Yeah.
With something. Yeah.
So maybe her dad has talked to her mom about what he heard. Right.
Right.
And she goes in and we see her kind of talking to them for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see her calling Donna, making plans to go out with her.
Asks her to do her nails for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I did note is after she said, fuck you for doing that to me, she jumps off, turns around and says, okay, enough.
Yeah.
And then storms off the bridge. And I thought, oh, that's a trumpet sound right there. Yeah. She was done with this bullshit. So let's talk about this movie.
Yeah.
And what made it fucking awesome.
Yeah.
First of all, kudos to Karen for writing and directing. The writing was rock solid. So many little things hit home. I mean, I did segues on the stuff because it's just like in the moment, you know.
Right.
Um,
And starring.
and directing it.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone did a great job. Let's just say that. But this is like one of those like Runoff. It's a story that needs to be told.
It is.
And I think when you were looking it up, it only did like $4,000 box office.
Yeah. It wasn't, I don't think it was hyper marketed anywhere, and it didn't get into a bunch of big theaters.
I'm wondering because it doesn't have a rating if it even went. I think you said it was festival runs.
I think so, yeah.
So I think that's where they got their box office from. It's just festival money because people pay to go see these films, and the creators get a little bit of it. This should be everywhere. This should be out there. I think it was probably one of the best. Now, folks who saw movies in my generation remember Ordinary People. The name, I was just going to say it, and then the name like flew away. So Ordinary People, Alan Alda and Timothy Hutton, a very young Timothy Hutton, about dealing with the death of someone, his older brother, and then Timothy Hutton tried to kill himself after that. It was a very sensitive topic.
Yeah.
And that movie was, you loved it or you hated it. It got super mixed, opposite ends of the spectrum reviews. Just because of the subject matter, people like railed on it. But it was, an A-list powerhouse film. Not since then has there been anything that I thought adequately did a good job of dealing with suicide and how people what happens in the aftermath.
Well, it's a beautiful, portrait of grief, right?
Yeah.
In one particular form. And this movie, like, I will say I might get a little bit emotional because this movie was very difficult for me to get through, but it was also like cathartic in a way.
Mm-hmm.
After we watched it, I went into the bathroom and I took a minute to like collect myself, right? And then when we went to bed, I know you didn't miss this, but I appreciate you not like saying anything about it. But I did cry on you for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. And I knew it was, well, because I knew it was, and then you told me immediately after.
Right.
And then, I'm not a buffoon.
Well, I know that.
You did what you had to do.
Yeah.
This, I want to talk about what she put in this story. So Lucy, right, is the worst example of dealing with grief. I mean, an example of the worst way to deal with grief. Some people,
yeah, but it's still a very honest.
Oh, it is. I'm not saying it's bad,
right,
badly done. I'm saying this is the worst way you can handle it. she just completely self-destructed.
Yeah.
Right. She's randomly fucking people. She's doing everything she can to degrade herself, belittle herself, hurt herself, destroy herself, to take that other pain away.
Right.
Right. And some people do it with alcohol and drugs. Right. They just, and they don't get out of it, and then it can lead to unfortunate ends. I think Lucy and Donna were the perfect pairing. Donna's over it. She's moved on. There was a scene neither one of us mentioned in the house across the street towards the end. She was looking, the upstairs was dark, but downstairs, the people were normal. They were smiling.
Yeah.
They were laughing, because no matter what shit goes on in the world, you have to move past it. And life goes on. It just does.
Well, in that one, it was
And
interesting because downstairs was normal. Upstairs, and maybe it was in an earlier or later one, but the daughter was up there just staring at the spot.
that was previous? Right. Yeah, that was the one before this last one.
Right.
Where, yeah, the daughter was just up staring where dad or the husband, someone was hanging.
Right.
I don't understand the structure. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Somebody killed themselves and the family suffered.
Right.
But then towards the end, even she was down there and they weren't like, Mardi Gras partying, but it was normal.
Right.
Because again, no matter what you want to think, life goes on and you better catch up at some point. And Lucy hadn't caught up. Donna had.
Well, it was in one of the conversations that she had with the wrong number guy was, he asked her if she was hurting herself and she was like, no, I let other people do that for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So and that's a hard thing to get across without making it without making it look stupid and unbelievable. Right. I just want to mention, we'll move on from this, but now's as good a time as any. So on a technical aspect, the makeup in this film on Karen was phenomenal because she just looked fucking worse and worse and worse every time we saw her. But when she would head out, they did a magnificent job that I would have not even thought of, because it occurred to me watching this, like, holy shit, someone was on the ball. It's like they made her up to look like absolute shit and then put going out makeup on over that, because when she would go out, she's all done up.
Yeah.
Other parts of the movie, she's not even wearing lipstick. But then every time she's going out, it looks less and less good.
Right.
Like it's we know she knows how to do makeup, but it's like, honey, there's only so much you can do, because it's not just the dark circles under the eyes that you're covering. She actually looked just more and more drawn.
Well, and that's also part the acting.
Oh, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Of her doing just a fantastic job.
Yes. So, kudos to the makeup.
Yeah.
Because, even with the acting, it wouldn't have carried it across without that look.
Yeah.
Just when she's like, plain faced, you can just see, oh my God. You're coming undone.
Yeah.
And, so I thought that was like fantastic. It was a level of realism and detail that I thought, man, if nothing else, that little bit of technical bit here is a huge win,
Yeah. And then thematically, there are a lot of recurring themes in this movie that are very much in the role of, like, if you want to watch a film that is a show, don't tell,
mm-hmm.
Right? This movie is an excellent example of that. There are so many little moments that are not spoken, right? Every time she looks over and sees Alistair.
This whole movie, if they had cut out all of the flashbacks, it would not have lost substance.
Right. And it's not that the flashbacks were unnecessary, right?
Well, they weren't exposition. They weren't to inform us. They built the broader picture. More of, so you can watch a movie like this without all those. If we cut all those out and then showed it to somebody, they'd easily walk away getting her best friend killed himself and she's left behind. She's just basically trying to kill herself any way she can by letting other people just, fuck her and abuse her and, until she fades away.
Yeah.
But that's not bad enough. This was part of the story. The flashbacks painted the picture of how much more tragic for Alistair this was. Right. And it's not, I just never got the sense like it was, so this is what made him do it.
No.
we just saw his life in these moments, and he had these wonderful friends. He had her super supportive, like, would cut off her arm to prop him up if necessary.
And it isn't excusing him.
No, not at all. But it was very real. It was painfully real.
Yeah.
In its happenings,
And it was, this movie was very complex and nuanced on a number of levels. Like, her anger, right? At everything.
Yeah.
Mixed with her grief and her not knowing quite what to do. Tonally, this film. So I talked a little bit about thematically, like the recurring themes, and it was very consistent and stuff, but tonally, with the color and just the method in which the story was told, right? The pacing and just kind of the view of the camera. It was just done so well. I think, oftentimes we talk about how, some people shouldn't like direct, write, and star. Not looking at you, Tommy Wiseau.
Oh, come on. Why'd you bring Tommy into this?
Because I love him. My picture. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, it's just a little behind you.
But I think this is a movie, and this is a story that has to be told by someone who, I don't know Karen Gillan's life story, right? But clearly she has experience in this subject matter, right? You can't write and direct and star in a film like this without having some personal knowledge of, what all of this is like. Even
third party to this kind of thing, it's still an enormous amount of emotion and connection to this kind of situation. So it's like, even if it's like a friend of hers went through this and she, there's some sort of deep connection, because this really did seem like something that
it was very personal, and it was very real, and it was very raw.
And she needed to do this.
And it felt very honest, like this whole film, which is kind of a weird thing to say, right? Because film in itself is, pretending, right?
Well, it is. And so I'll go back to Ordinary People, right? So this is 40 years-ish before this movie. It wasn't as honest. It was very Hollywood, very done up, very contrived situations. The younger brother who tried to kill himself gets hooked up with a girl who ends up killing herself. It was just, not that these things haven't happened. Right. But when you watch that movie, you're going to think, this is truly a studio film.
Yeah.
And it hit all the A-list things, which kind of took it out of the realm of, you didn't feel comfortable watching it because you didn't feel like you were experiencing anything. It was all for show. This, I actually felt very comfortable going through this whole thing, because I felt like she invited us in for coffee.
Right.
And laid this whole story out for us and just brought us right into it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an odd thing to say, you feel comfortable watching a tragedy. But when I saw the trailer for this, I just, the tonality of the trailer was so mixed in the little bits, because you're like, ooh, this looks heavy. This looks like, oh, you get a little chuckle,
Yeah.
And the balance of the tone in this, no matter what terrible shit happens, there's always something that's funny.
Right.
Right? Now, whether you laugh at it or not, but funny shit's still funny shit.
Oh, yeah. There are definitely funny moments.
Yeah. I was going to bring that up. Didn't it on Tubi, didn't it listed as a drama comedy?
Right. I don't know that I would call it a comedy.
I was just looking at IMDb to see if they gave it any kind of a listing at all. But yeah, it says comedy drama on here too. So,
Like
folks,
black comedy, maybe?
it's not even a comedy. It has some funny moments, but I would never call this a comedy, right?
Right. I mean, there's a few funny moments this when she's shopping with her mom.
Yeah.
Right. And the mom's like, "Oh, I love this couch. What do you think of this couch?" And Karen or Lucy is just sitting on the edge, not even looking at her mom. She's like, "It's absolutely spectacular."
Yes. And that's what reminded me of our daughter.
Right.
I mean, she's not going through this terrible thing, but Lucy's mental state is in that, like, just, early teen, angsty, just that disconnect from everything. Because, at 13, you're wrapped up in your own shit. In the rest of the world,
right.
You just don't have time for it.
Yeah.
Right? No, thank you. No. I'll pass. But yeah.
Yeah. But let's see. The sound design.
Yes.
The music was spot on.
There we go. I mean, this is what it is when and Karen, this isn't like what she did before she was on Doctor Who. This wasn't like just a roll it together kind of thing. She had clout. She had oomph.
Well, she had just come off of Guardians of the Galaxy. She was working on this while filming the movie. Yeah.
So it was all there, and she had the ability to get what every indie filmmaker dreams of.
Yeah.
The best of equipment and sound and post and everything, right? Because, a lot of indie films, the credits list is about 20 names and that's it. This was a full-on scroll of stuff,
right?
Which, when you can do it, excellent. It's not saying it's better or worse than anything out there, because there are movies of this quality who've been absolute shit, and stuff that have, been $1,000 budget and been like, fucking hell, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Right. All the performances, great. Just the pacing, the writing of this. I'm going to just hit the writing.
Sure.
Right. Like I said, she had to have been close to this.
Yeah.
In some form.
Well, that's just the thing. Like I said, this movie, hit on some sensitive nerves, right? For me,
mm-hmm.
It's a subject that's very close to me. And I have been through, right? This thing a couple of times,
mm-hmm.
I will say. And every time has been unique, right?
Well,
I think if you go through it once, like, what it's going to be like another time, and it's not. Every time is unique and difficult in its own way. And I, did go through some self-destructive grief, right? Similar, not exactly the same.
No.
But similar. And it, like, just from experience, this was very real.
Mm-hmm. See, now I have a different perspective of going through this. As a priest later on, I had from the opposite perspective of dealing with two people in particular that were very close and thankfully called me up. And it was a long road with lots of phone calls. And I mean, to the best of my knowledge today, are still going strong. Right?
Yeah.
And that gave me a different perspective on, because everyone always wonders, what could you have done? What could have been done? How could we have seen this? How could we? And it's like sudden stuff. It's people suffering from depression long term. It's that cavalcade of shit that just dumps on you, like poor Alistair, right?
Yeah.
And from the other side, being able to have helped two people, I don't pat myself on the back. I think, well, it wasn't me. They reached out to me. I had no fucking clue. And these were people who just they weren't strangers. They were people who did come to services every, few weeks. I mean, nobody really ever came every week.
Yeah.
That was kind of the thing is, you come when you need it. We're not getting money from you. You don't need to be here every week. I had no idea, no concept. And when they even told me, I had to sort out in my head, so where are we going with this exactly? But thankfully, had training for that very kind of thing. And seeing a movie like this, it just reawakened all that in me. And the one thing they didn't say in this movie, and I don't think they should have, because I think it would have Hollywoodized it. But speaking from a practical sense, anybody listening, if something like this happens, I'm going to tell you right now, there's nothing you could have done at all, ever.
I have been in the position of, I've been in the position of, wow, I really should have done something. I've been in the position of, I wish they would have reached out to me. I think I could have done something.
Yeah.
And I've been in the position of, I don't know what else I could have fucking done.
Yeah. So here's the thing. It's the reaching out. If all of this was ever so obvious, we wouldn't have it. Right?
Yeah.
If it was that obvious and easy to deal with, we would not be suicide wouldn't be a subject. It wouldn't be a word. Right? But I mean, that's kind of the thing is it could be for anything. Like I said, for Alistair, it wasn't like this slow buildup. I mean, yeah, a lot of shit's happening, right? But he had that like trooper kind of, it's just one more situation. Yeah, I'm fucked up, but you know what? You carry on, right? You plow through it, embrace it, and carry on.
Right.
And that's what she saw. That's what Lucy saw. And that happens in real life. You won't know. If someone comes up and says something, the best thing I could say to anybody is get on the fucking phone and call every fucking person you know and that person knows. You know what? Let them be pissed at you. Let them fucking disown you. You fucking call everybody. And then you put that person on the phone with the suicide hotline and you start calling local hospitals. What do we need to do? You do everything you can to make that person uncomfortable and hate you.
Yeah.
Hate you. You get the job done. And even then, you know what? That might not be enough.
Yeah.
Just want to say that. Everybody is in their head in their own way. And the best thing you can do is just throw it out into the world so there's no safe harbor for them to go hide.
Right.
Right. And at that point, folks, you've done everything you can do. Right. There are people who, I'm trained to deal with situations. I'm certainly not trained, to long-term psychiatric care somebody. Right. Pastoral counseling can only go so far. But even those folks, right? It's not a sure thing. You just hope and hope and hope, be supportive, try to help them get the help that they can. But in the end, people are going to do what they're going to do. And that, I think, to me is where I turn like callous and cold. It's like, you know what? I've been through enough to go, if something had happened to those two people, I thought a lot about this over the years. I would have probably blamed myself, but, in retrospect, now I'd be like, I'll do my grieving bit, but then it's going to be quick. And I'll be like, Donna, I'm moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on. Did everything I could. I don't know the answer. Other people may have, done what they could. None of us knew the answer. The choice was made and you just have to move on. This movie, I think, will do two things. One, it'll evoke reactions in people who have dealt with it and people who aren't done dealing with it may
Yeah.
get like a, yeah, I gotta do what she did. I gotta turn around and say, fucking enough.
Well, and it
You know,
also, it's hard to talk to people about, right?
it
If you
is.
are someone who is grieving someone who's done this, it's weird to talk to people about it.
Yeah.
And you can bring it up to people and they can change the subject immediately, which happened
Yeah.
several times. But it is a good way to show people, if you know someone who's going through this, right? Who's grieving this, and you see them, grieving in a way that maybe isn't healthy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because this is different than if someone dies in a car accident or of natural causes,
Right.
or of cancer, or there's always something or someone to blame
Mm-hmm.
in your grief. But in this situation, who do you blame?
Right.
Right?
Well, and it's unsettling more than other things because, well, I'm going to go back to what you said. If you go through it once, if it happens again, you think it's like going to be, I've done this. Okay. But here's the thing. I've done how many funerals, right? Lots and lots of funerals. They're not all the same.
No.
Right. I mean, if it's a church funeral, people had certain ways they wanted things done, and that's what we provided. But everyone was unique in the feeling. Some people I was very close to, others, fairly close to. Some
Right.
I was asked to come in because, someone who came to service had a relative or someone somewhere, and they're like, they didn't really have a church. And I kind of feel better if you were doing it.
Right.
At least there's not this wild card factor to add to the whole thing. Right. Obviously I'm going to do it. For your grandfather.
Yeah.
And that was very different as well, because it was family. And, that was the toughest, really, because I was 50-50 on whether or not I'd make it through without bawling. And I did make it till the end when I was done speaking and you guys were saying your pieces, because then I was over there with my hanky and I could, I didn't have to speak anymore. But, it's going to be different. It's very different because those cases, it happened. He was sick for a long time, but it was Lyme disease. And then he was doing all right. And then something happened and it just, boom, 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 boom. That was it. It was the staircase down, just downhill,
Yeah. Cancer all up in there.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
And super sudden. Car wrecks, things like that. There's anger. There's frustration because someone was taken from you. Why is this person who caused the wreck alive? Why is this? Lots of fury.
Right.
And it's easy to point. It's easy to work through. And it's the seven.
Well, and having that thing to be angry at.
That's the thing.
With grief.
Yes. Because when somebody commits suicide, the last thing you want to do is be pissed at them.
Yeah.
And that is what causes all this grief, all of it. I'll say that's the one thing that is the same through all of this universally. Lucy is destroying herself because she can't bring herself to be fucking angry at what Alistair did. And I'm almost 100% positive now that she did tell Dale, it's not fair to the ones you leave behind or your family.
I think so. You might be right.
And that was it. And that was, I think that was our first look into why we knew, but she's kind of admitting it to herself.
Right.
What he did wasn't fair.
Yeah.
And it's not. Isn't. Yep. It's not. I'll say that I feel badly for people who reach that point that they do that to themselves. But it is absolutely their fault. You feel the way you do. It is absolutely their fault. You have every right to be angry and call them selfish and stuff.
And she says, fuck you.
Yeah. Now in doing that, you're not minimizing what was going on with them.
Right.
Alistair has a lot of emotion, a lot of mental baggage, a lot of, he was towing a heavy fucking wagon.
Well, it's the thing, people aren't computers. Our brains aren't wired to work a certain way. They're plastic. You know what I mean? They flex.
Well, they have all that flexibility, but there's that hardcore stuff. I mean, we have a survival instinct, fight or flight kind of thing. That's what I'm saying. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I just, it marvels me that we do things to ourselves in such drastic things. Where is all this great shit that's supposed to be in our head? Is what I'm saying. Where is this great structure to keep us going? And how simple.
I've never believed there was a great structure in our head to keep us going.
Oh, well, I do. I mean, there's something.
Well, I think it's a discussion that could be had.
Yeah, it's just, but anyway, it comes up because I think this movie did a great part of that. Alistair had some ups and downs, but he had a dream. He had a goal, which was very brave. And he was on it and, on his own. That's the thing until Lucy found out he was going to do this on his own up until a point where it would have to be made. Clearly he wasn't ready for it just yet.
Yeah.
But you can't live as a woman for a year and keep it from your best friend for too long.
Well, and not have any support in it.
Right. But I think he was just trying to get into it because it wasn't, it was his thing. Right. That's the other thing that this whole thing hit me is the reality of suicide amongst young people. I don't want to say just gay people, but having to do with sexual identity, self, that whole thing, that's another layer of extra bullshit that most of us will never be able to understand.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was a perfect blend of really terrible shit that needs an honest look.
Yeah.
Like this is not okay. You should never got punched in the face.
Right.
I mean, what is that? I know exactly what that is. I grew up in a neighborhood where that would have happened. Yeah, I think Karen did. She should get an award for this.
This is a beautiful film.
It is beautiful. And it's this conversation that I love so much.
Yeah.
That this is what we've been talking about the last few films. We have lucked out. And is it any coincidence that,
all these are films directed by women?
Written and directed or directed by women and starring female leads. And
right.
Come on. I've always said it. Women are way better at this than men. And I know people have kind of hemmed and hawed at that, but I'm telling you.
Women are way better at lots of things than men.
Well, yeah. I'm not going to disagree. But when it comes to this, I'm a good fucking writer. I'm just going to say that. Because if I don't believe it, why am I doing this?
Well, you are.
You're a good fucking writer. But when it comes to certain things, we've talked about it. You are better at putting it on the paper than I am in certain situations of emotion and reads and things like this movie.
Well, right? Yeah. And those are when we're writing together. Those are the moments where I take point.
Yeah.
Most often.
And I knock it out of the park with the logical kind of, not saying women are illogical, but I'm a logic machine.
Well,
it has to make sense to me. And I'm
Bert, good. And I'm Ernie.
Yeah. But I'm good at putting that on paper and in dialogue to make it story worthy.
Right.
And see, we do these things, bring it together. But so far, I mean, we're like, how many have we done? Whatever that number is, we're 8 for 8, 4 for 4, whatever.
Yeah. Lots of them.
Yep. Examples. So guys, I'm just going to say this. If you want to do a story like this, you have a story that needs to be told. Let's call it that. You have a story that needs to be told. And it needs to have these deep emotional things. Find a woman and make her your writing partner. If there's
We're
not already,
everywhere.
Yeah.
We're all over the place.
We're
easy to find.
Crazily. Wow, who'd have thought if women outnumber men like 3-1, would they be hard to find?
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm serious. Find a woman and bring her into your creative circle. I mean, obviously she needs to be a writer,
Yeah.
but
Well, in
hand
any
it over,
filmmaking
man.
endeavor, get a woman's perspective.
Just hand it over. And, like you said, take point. Let her take point. And then discuss, right? Say, okay, this is great, but I need it to flow for this next thing. And you're going to end up with fucking movie magic.
Yeah.
That's all you're going to get.
And then give her fucking credit.
I mean, you're not supposed to.
Credits.
You're not supposed to disparage people, but let's just say, hold this movie up against anything Michael Bay did, right? Boom, boom, boom. It's just, dick symbols and explosions, macho action, manly shit. That it's weak on substance, has none.
Well, I would take this over any tentpole movie
of
the past 20 years.
This should be a tentpole. Why someone didn't come in and swoop this up? I guess COVID, because this was 2017, right?
No, 2018.
2018. Okay, so still a year and a half before, roughly, before it all went to shit.
And with indie films, it does sometimes take a couple years for them to get mainstream.
Well, and with COVID, a lot of stuff has died on the vine.
Yeah.
Because people are like, I just don't have the fucking energy for that. I want to move forward instead of taking this wrinkly ass tomato and trying to get it juicy again. I'm just going to make more tomatoes.
Right.
Right. Which is a shame because I think people are losing out not having seen this. So hopefully listeners, you'll take this all in stride and you'll sell the hell out of all these movies because none of these are, fucking blockbusters. That's why we're doing
They're
them.
indie films.
This is one that I think you got to see it. You got to see it.
Well, with that.
We kind of went into a thing, but that's all right.
That's okay. Go check out our website.
lordsofmisruleproductions.com.
Everything is there. We don't need to spell it out for you. Here's something more important. If you are thinking about suicide or you're worried about a friend or a loved one, call the suicide prevention line. It's 800-273-8255. That's in the U.S. I don't know what any international numbers are.
I don't.
So
I could look them up because we do have listeners in Ireland and Scotland and England, Romania.
Yeah.
All over there. It will be in the show notes, folks.
But it's a 24/7 service line. It's toll free.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can go to the website. You can chat online with them on the website. That's suicidepreventionlifeline.org.
And I guess the last thing to say on that topic is if you're in the other camp and you're the one who's thinking of it and you're the one who's struggling with it, use the numbers. Use them. Because you know what? In all candidness, it is the least pussy move you can ever make. Because that's what keeps a lot of people from doing it, is they think it's this like thing of weakness and it'll brand them or it's a failure. And that's just the dumbest thing.
It is, it's a sign of being self-aware and of, being strong enough to ask for help.
Well, you know what? Asking for help is like the bossest thing you can do. You want to use like a modern parlance, to this. Because you know what? It's that whole thing of there's a difference between courage and fearlessness. If you have no fear, you're a fucking idiot. Right? That just means you're not smart enough to gauge fear. So don't pull on that. Courage is facing fear and carrying on with it. It's not always overcoming it, but it's just carrying on. You're afraid. You're afraid to make a call. You're afraid to, you know what? It's okay. Do it.
Yeah.
Because you're not a failure. More people on this planet ask for help than you'll ever know. Right?
Right.
Right.
And you don't have to be, forgive the language, but like staring down the barrel or whatever it is to call the line. Even if you're just thinking, even if you like go through your day and you're driving and you think, God, it would be so easy if I went off this bridge or whatever.
That's when you need to do it.
Call.
And that's why they're there, because we know you don't want to talk to your friends. It's harder to do that. It's easier to call a stranger who is trained to help you get to the next steps.
Yeah.
So that in, 70, 80 years from now, you can think back on, whew, man, that was some rough shit. But I'm glad,
right.
Anyway. So yeah, I will put numbers in the show notes, not just the U.S. hotline, but I will try to find the U.K. in general, Australia, just all the ones that I can.
An even easier number to dial is 988.
There you go.
That will route you to that lifeline. So.
Okay. Well, excellent film. A lot of good lessons in here. Subject matter heavy.
Yeah. Tough, but necessary.
And beautifully, beautifully done.
Yeah.
See this. Just to celebrate the beauty of what this woman has done in writing and directing and acting in this fantastic representation of arguably the shittiest part of some people's lives.
Yeah. If I didn't already love her before this for all her work,
right,
like this would have really clinched it. But I did already love her for all that stuff. So,
okay then. I think we've done it. Go to the website, see the stuff, do the stuff. Please like, please subscribe, please rate, please leave a review. So, if you're doing it on YouTube and you're listening, one of those folks, leave a review like on each episode, because that algorithm doesn't really check the content so much as someone left a review.
Someone left a review.
Yeah. It's like, oh, people are watching it. So,
right.
Up the chain. So yeah, do all that stuff. And, if you got something going and you want us to see it, reach out. Email addresses are on the website.
They sure are.
Contact us through social media, and we'll see what we can do. No promises. I know there's a couple of people who did that and thought just, we're going to love it just because. And unfortunately, in one instance, it did not happen.
Well,
sadly. I mean, that's just life.
We're right? Honest.
Yeah.
If you want an honest opinion for the people you can.
And unless it violates our cardinal rule or is literally so boring that we can't look anymore because our eyes are burning and itching, this world will not break.
It takes a lot to get us to stop watching a movie. We watched Frozen Sasquatch all the way through.
Yes.
Out of principle.
Yes.
And it was awful.
But, for new listeners, and you're interested, the cardinal rule is we don't do movies with rape. I mean, it's just grotesque, Anyway, send what you want and we'll let you know if it's going to happen. And we just, love to have a dialogue with you.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have you on the show because, we love talking to creatives. And lastly, we are doing the Trejo tribute, folks.
Yes.
I'm getting that together. So we will have Miles back and we're going to talk about Danny Trejo. And I think the structure is going to be when we first saw him in a film and what made him stick out, what made us love him and what next and why we think he's so goddamn cool, because he fucking is.
He really is.
He's just the best. So that'll be coming. Next couple episodes. All right. With that.
Until next time.
This is Jim.
And this is Danny.
We'll be talking to you soon, B-Siders.
Bye.